One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us and everyone. We'll take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song. One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us and everyone. We'll take one more step.
Well, good morning and welcome, everyone. I am the Reverend Susan Suchocki Brown. I'm the interim minister here at South Church in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Unitarian Universalist congregation. So happy that you could join us at this July service. The theme has been changed, and we will continue that theme right on through August, because there are a lot of things to think about with change. And we are just so happy that you're joining us and able to be with us this morning. And speaking of being with us, it's always a delight to work with the worship associates who help me have worship service that is versatile and meaningful. And this morning in particular, I'm happy to welcome Hilary Clark, who's our worship associate. Hilary.
Oh, thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
I'm pleased to be with everybody this morning and with you, Susan. And I'm one of 5 worship associates, so tune in each Sunday to get to know all of us. And I am happy to work with Reverend Susan and with our Director of Lifespan Ministries, Kirsten Hunter, and our Religious Education Coordinator, Jen Del Valle, our musicians and staff to create worship for you every week. Today, the story for all ages will be provided by Ingrid Ahlberg. It's exciting to hear that. Our music is offered by Cathy, Okhuysen, Susan Adams, and South Church Folk. And then I want to remind everyone that after the service, there will be what I think is our first in-person gathering for coffee hour, and it will be from noon to 2. So we really hope to see you there, and do dress accordingly because we will be outside. Welcome everybody. And Susan, anything else?
No, welcome to the service. So glad you could join us. We're missing you. We're going to look forward to seeing you this afternoon and in September. So blessings on you all. Thank you for joining us.
Join Reverend Susan this coming Tuesday evening, July 27th at 6:30 on the portico. Gather, sit, chat, and get connected. Please RSVP to revsusan@southchurch-uu.org and make sure that you bring a chair. Mark your calendars for a day of cleaning to get South Church ready for us to come back to our space. On Saturday, August 21st, from 10 to noon, we will gather at the church to spend time cleaning, organizing, and prepping the space for our return. Please consider coming to help spruce everything up. And we hope to see many of you today. Immediately following worship, head on over to South Church Portico for an in-person social hour with light refreshments. Masks outdoors are optional, but they will be required if you go inside the building. We will have some available if you need. More information can be found in your Sunday morning email.
Be lamp lamps unto yourself. Be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourself as to the only light. Be ye lamps unto yourself. Be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourself as to the only light. Be ye lamps unto yourself. Be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourself as to the only light.
In July of 2019, my brother and I spent 2 weeks at a wildlife tracking program in South Africa with 6 other participants and our 2 guides, Lee and Kirsty. We lived in tents surrounded by an electric fence, only venturing outside the perimeter when accompanied by an armed guide. On this particular day, we had seen fresh lion tracks just outside our campsite, and we decided to follow them. We had a strict protocol when tracking. Lee would walk in front next to the student tracker, rifle in hand, and then the remaining 7 students would walk in single file behind, absolutely silent, and Kirsty would take up the rear, rifle in hand also. I was the first tracker on this morning, looking for signs of animals nearby. It's quite amazing how silent elephants can be until they were right in front of you, or how a pride of lions can appear invisible, though they're in the bushes ahead. We walked for 4 hours, Lee and Kirsty correcting us whenever we became sloppy with our line or if we started to speak. It was a hot day. We were almost back to camp, walking alongside the Oliphant River. We were in an open, grassy area, and we all relaxed. We chatted in small groups and looked over the river. That was when Annika slapped her thigh twice, our sign that there was danger. No one heard her. Then she said quietly, "Hippo." I looked up. I looked along the river. I didn't see a hippo. And then she yelled, "Hippo, charging!" And she was right. There was a hippo running straight at us. Lee motioned for us to stay back. He puffed himself up and he started yelling at that hippo. While he was doing this, I was starting to run, so I ran to the left. And Lee diverted the hippo to the left. So I pivoted, I went right, but again, so did that hippo. And in the midst of all of that adrenaline, that was when I felt this wave of acceptance and peace come over me. I had done all that I could to avert disaster, and now I had to let go. It would be what it would be. And that scared, grumpy, and hot adolescent hippo found its way around us and made its way back to the river. That feeling that I had as that hippo was charging us is the same feeling that I had as my 30-year marriage was unraveling. I pivoted right, I pivoted left, trying to get us back to what I thought was our path, our future together. But it wasn't to be. I had done what I could to avert disaster, and now I had to let go. And I felt that same wave of peace and acceptance, although this time it felt like that hippo had found its mark and that I had been trampled. This was a change I had never wanted or allowed myself to imagine, and it took me a long time to heal. But through it all, that sense of faith in the mysteriousness of life has stayed with me and strengthened. I have sunk into the warm embrace of life and all it has to offer, more accepting of change than ever. As Andrei Ploff states, just when you think you know exactly how it's going,
some unexpected possibility shows up and it begins to get even better. May it be so. We invite you to light a chalice in your home as we light the chalice in the sanctuary. We light the chalice to these words, written in a child's autograph book in December 1926. We cannot choose what life will bring us, of joy, of pain, but what our souls bring to meet the challenge. This is in our power. Sincerely, Helen Keller. Please join me in reciting our mission statement. The words are displayed on your screen. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people and inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here. Jen contacted me a week or so ago and asked if I would be willing to read or tell a story about change. And I thought about it and I said, sure, I could do that. I taught for a very long time, and the last 11 years of my teaching, I thought I was teaching 4-year-olds, but really I had 4-year-olds teaching me. So when she told me that we would be looking for books about change, I said, I know which box I'm going to. I'm going to my Eric Carle box of books. So I found A House for Hermit Crab, and I'd like to share it with you this morning. Just a little bit of background, and I'll read it for you because it's in very small print. Hermit crabs live on the ocean floor. Their skin is hard, except for the abdomen, which is soft. To protect this soft spot, the hermit crab borrows a shell and makes this its house. Then only its face, feet, and claws stick out from the shell. That way it can see, walk, and catch its food. When a hermit crab is threatened, it withdraws into its shell until the danger has passed. A House for Hermit Crab by Eric Carle. Time to move, said Hermit Crab one day in January. I've grown too big for this little shell. He had felt safe and snug in his shell, but now it was too snug. Hermit Crab stepped out of the shell and onto the ocean floor. But it was frightening out in the open sea without a shell to hide in. What if a big fish comes and attacks me? Thought, I must find a new house soon. Early in February, Hermit Crab found just the right house he was looking for. It was a big shell and strong. He moved right in, wiggling and waggling about inside to see how it felt. It felt just right. But it looked so, well, so plain, thought Hermit Crab. In March, Hermit Crab met some sea anemones. They swayed gently back and forth in the water. How beautiful you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to come and live on my house? It is so plain, it needs you. I'll come, whispered a small sea anemone. Gently, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and put it on his shell. In April, Hermit Crab passed a flock of starfish moving slowly along the seafloor. How handsome you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to decorate my house? I would, signaled a little sea star. Carefully, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and put it on his house. In May, Hermit Crab discovered some coral. They were hard and didn't move. How pretty you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to help make my house more beautiful? I would, creaked the crusty coral. Gingerly, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it on his shell. In June, Hermit Crab came to a group of snails crawling over a rock on the ocean floor. They grazed as they went, picking up an algae and bits of debris and leaving a neat path behind them. How tidy and hardworking you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to come and help clean my house? I would, offered one of the shells. Happily, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it on his shell. In July, Hermit Crab came upon several sea urchins. He had sharp, prickly needles. How fierce you look, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to protect my house? I would, answered a spiky sea urchin. Gratefully, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it near his shell. In August, Hermit Crab and his friends wandered into a forest of seaweed. It's so dark here, thought Hermit Crab. How dim it is, murmured the sea anemone. How gloomy it is, whispered the starfish. How murky it is, complained the coral. I can't see, said the snail. It's like nighttime, said the urchin. In September, Hermit Crab spotted a school of lanternfish darting through the dark water. How bright you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to light up my house? I would, replied one lanternfish, and it swam over near the shell. In October, Hermit Crab approached a pile of smooth pebbles. How sturdy you are, said Hermit Crab. Would you mind if I rearranged you? Not at all, answered the pebbles. Hermit Crab picked them up one by one with his claw and built a wall around his shell. Now my house is perfect, cheered Hermit Crab. But in November, Hermit Crab felt that his shell seemed a bit too small. Little by little over the year, Hermit Crab had grown. Soon he would have to find another bigger home. But he had come to love his friends, the sea anemone, the starfish, the coral, the sea urchin, the snail, the lanternfish, and even the smooth pebbles. They have been so good to me, thought Hermit Crab. They are like a family. How can I ever leave them? In December, a smaller hermit crab passed by. I've outgrown my shell, she said. Do you know of a place for me? I have outgrown my house too, answered Hermit Crab. I must move on. You're welcome to live here, but you must promise to take good care of my friends. I promise, said the little crab. The following January, Hermit Crab stepped out and the little crab moved in. Couldn't stay in that little shell forever, said Hermit Crab as he waved goodbye. The ocean floor looked wider than he had remembered. Hermit Crab wasn't afraid. Soon he spied the perfect house, a big empty shell. It looked, well, a little plain, but sponges, he thought, barnacles, clownfish, sand dollars, electric eels. Oh, there are so many possibilities. I can't wait to get started. I don't know about you, but that sounds a little like the end of a pandemic to me.
It is now time for our morning offering so that we can continue to do our important work within our congregation and in the larger community. Your donation helps us to pay our staff and maintain our buildings. Every month we share our plate with an organization chosen by the congregation. Our shared plate recipient for this month is Seacoast Family Promise, SFP, based in Exeter, New Hampshire, which has been empowering children and their families who are experiencing homelessness to achieve lasting self-sufficiency through a community-based approach. They provide temporary housing, food, and shelter while supporting the family with education, support, counseling, and whatever other needs they may have. Many of you have given of your time by providing meals, and now we ask you to give of your treasures. Please give as you are able by going online via the donate link on our website or send a check in the mail to our office at 73 Court Street in Portsmouth. Details are on the screen. Thank you for your generosity.
We are building new connections. We are building new connections. We are building new connections and a better world. We are building strength together. We are building strength together. We are building strength together and a better world. We are building for our children. We are building for our children. We are building for our children and a better world. Let's reach out and help each other. Let's reach out and help each other. precious day, for this precious day.
My prayer right now is about finding the patience to accept the challenges of the technological world that we're forced to live in. My internet system is not working well, and so I need to pray for patience, and I need to pray for the ability to be flexible, the ability to find new ways of doing things. Seems appropriate that at this time of thinking about change, that this would be the time and the night that the computer would decide that it wasn't going to work with my internet. And therefore, I sit here in my beautiful, lovely office, and I pray, and I pray, and I invite you to pray with me. For all those things that cause us to have challenges, that cause us to just be tested, I pray that we always have each other to call upon when the challenges, the frustrations are overwhelming. I pray that your day, your week has gone well. I pray that you are surrounded by loved ones right now, that you are feeling safe, comfortable, and comforted. I pray that the changes that we have to cope with are lessened because we have people around us who can support us, love us, care for us, and be with us. I pray for world peace. I pray for friends, family members who are suffering right now with illnesses, with diagnoses that are not good, with all the struggles that is life. I pray that together we will find joy and happiness. May it be so. Amen.
Generally, my grandson, Kevin, then aged 11 or 12, loved any task that I gave him to do. He made a small amount of money, and it was usually involving tools and equipment, and he usually was learning something new and excited about that. But the task I had given him on this particular day, he did not take well to. He started off to do the job, but I noticed he didn't have his usual enthusiasm and would stop and start and, well, more stand and stare. And you're probably thinking, well, I asked him to shovel manure or move dirt or something like that, but actually what I had asked him to do was to cut back to the ground all the perennial plants in the yard. He really was dawdling and avoiding, so I went to inquire and to instruct, of course, isn't that what we do? And it was then that I noticed he looked horror-stricken when I began to cut some of the perennials level with the ground. Finally, he said, "Grammy, those plants are beautiful, and they're growing, and they're pretty, and they've been growing all summer. Why on earth do you want to destroy them?" And aha, it was then that I came to understand his reluctance and concern. So I explained to him that the clipping and the pruning would help them to conserve their energy during the winter, and that the pruning, in fact, would help them to blossom even more beautifully in the spring. He was amazed, and never being able to pass up an opportunity to pass on grandmotherly wisdom, I thought this seemed a good time to talk to Kevin about the process of change and how we sometimes need to rid ourselves of excess, outworn external things in order to go inward and become ready for new growth and transformation. And I told him about the emptying process, and it is what nature does, especially in the autumn season, and that there are really important lessons to be learned from nature. As an aside, I find it really interesting that his job today is at a very large nursery that plants seasonal flowers that are sold at Market Basket, Home Depot, Lowe's, among other places. He is learning the cycle of change that is demonstrated daily through the natural process of growing, tending, harvesting, and return. And I was reminded of this story and that letting go process as being necessary for change when last week I was cleaning out stuff for storage and for the sale of the house. It was hard, and many of you know that. You know that too. You find it hard to let go of old stuff, the attachment to stuff, mismatched plates, old notebooks, folders of old writings and books long read, and now needing to find another place was constantly a challenge and on my mind. But I know, and as we are reminded of over and over, if we do not let go of, if we do not lop off some of the old, there will not be room for the new. It is not an easy process to undertake, but I do believe that emptying is necessary for spiritual growth and transformation. The writer and mystic Matthew Fox explored 4 paths of life, which he thinks are the natural and normal parts of the cycle of life. And those are explained in great detail in his book, Creation Spirituality. He writes that there are cycles and circles, not stages, not steps. That these cycles and stages are part of our becoming and our being spiritually healthy beings. And they are the via positiva, via negativa, via creativa, and via transformativa, or awe, release, creation, and interdependence. The one I want to explore in relation to change as letting go is via negativa, the path of the negative. I believe adopting this philosophy, not of negative, but of release, will help us to learn how to respond to change. Incidentally, I learned that the verb believe can also be translated as to let be, to let go. That's a twist on the usual way of believing, isn't it? How many of us are told that to believe we had to have faith in the words of others. We had to come to see that their words, their way of fashioning the world could provide us with faith. But truth be told, I like to imagine that believing is letting go and being open. A letting go of preconceived notions and ideas, perspectives. Believing is not letting someone else build my worldview, although I must and I can choose to remain open to other notions and ideas, perspectives, in order to awaken some new in me. And Matthew Fox states, essentially what the via negativa is about learning receptivity. Everything that is receptive must and ought to be empty, he said. And Fox proposes that we cannot let go, we cannot have new beliefs when we are full of doctrines and teachings that have been poured into us as if we were incapable of making those decisions ourselves. And this is one of the gifts of Unitarian Universalism. Each of us can and is encouraged to forge in their own heart and mind the spiritual growth that leads us to and through a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, so that in community, with community, we can build a beloved community, learning, loving, and living into being. And living into the mystery and emptying and letting go is a path towards self-discovery, one that Unitarian Universalism is fully suited to offer. I hope you have found that here, and if not, let's find a way to make it be. Yet letting go is frightening. How many of you remember learning to float? Staying still and just moving enough to stay on top of the water, that didn't come easily. The sensation and imagining that I had, that we could sink was pretty hard to control. But do you remember that very moment when you just laid back and trusted the water to hold you? No movement, just utter stillness, a blessed silence. And that's what I remember occurring when I can give in to that vast nothingness, that unknowingness. I don't meditate well. I have a very hard time just sitting, but I have heard it said by those who do meditate that letting go into nothingness is a time when they found their spirit most receptive to things. And if spiritual growth is to be attained, I guess I better become more adept at meditation and at letting go, believing that I can grow if I am more open to trying to be part of the process of letting go. Letting go is so essential when we learn to realize that it is not letting go of things that are important, but it is letting go of the attitude toward things, says Matthew Fox. What do you think about that? Not letting go of things that are important, but letting go of the attitude toward things. Personally, I can recount far too many times when my ego, my desires, my wants were wedded to a particular outcome. For example, something as simple as wanting a family outing to go a particular way and it going another. And then more recently packing up and letting go of items, making decision to let go of items that no longer make my heart sing, or letting go of thoughts as complex as the theological gymnastics I used to engage in pleading with, bargaining with a higher power, I guess, to allow something to happen the way I wanted. If I acted in a certain way, I had to learn how to let go of that. Because certainly my view of God has changed significantly since that young age. I no longer look upon an outside source. I no longer depend on a force defined or designed or taught to me or what God is or should be. And I certainly no longer believe that God that the spirit that I believe is sustaining us is here to answer my wants and needs and my ego. And the God, goddess, divine, mystery, source of love and life that I hold in my heart and mind and being is so much bigger than a wish-granting being or as anything else anyone else has ever tried to get me to accept. Plus the universe, I've come to understand the universe is more mysterious and more awesome than I can ever envision. And I don't want to limit the potential by attaching my wants to anything. And I also found that once I was able to let go of younger visions, that I could let go of other things, like mistakes I have made. Though I am sorry, and I truly am sorry for any pain or suffering I might have and did cause to others, those mistakes are experiences that make me who I am today. Yet sometimes I find myself holding on to mistakes that I made, holding on to past misdeeds, holding on to unhealthy wants, desires, needs, relationships, all that keep me from moving forward, all to keep me from avoiding the hard work of letting go to change, because change is hard. And sometimes holding on to past things or thinking helps me avoid the fear of the future, the fear of letting go, the fear of the unknown. And yet I know that all that letting go is necessary for change to occur. And when I can be honest with myself and when I can find helpers to be with me through those scary and tough times, well, new opportunities do appear. Now, in his creation-centered spirituality, Fox states again that emptying is needed as part of the deep and fruitful journey. There can be no creativity or new creation without the via negativa. Without letting go and emptying and sinking into the nothingness, floating with the universe, we do not grow spiritually, personally, socially, institutionally. And I propose as well that unless we are willing to be emptied of preconceptions, of judgments, of our holding on to no longer workable images of this nation, we need a new vision. Unless we are willing to let go of this image that we have, we will not get to the deepest levels or places to start the discussions about how our society is broken, specifically around the issue of race. And to see Facebook discussions with broken relationships, to hear opinions expressed that are not based in compassion is heartbreaking. I care deeply about the relationships that have been damaged, and I care deeply about the communities that mourn. I care deeply about people who have no caring place to express their feelings and be heard. And I want South Church to be the place where you can come and hurt and feel and let go and know that you're going to be held in love and in care and compassion. I want that. I want that to happen. And I want this to be a time of a deep journey for our nation, for us as people and us as South Church. A journey to a new creation. I want that to happen. So letting go of change is not blind submission to guilt or shame, not a loss of selfhood, not a loss of purpose and meaning. Rather, it is being open to a new fullness. And if we try to fill our lives with too much food, too much drugs, too much friends, too much frills, too much commercialism, there is no room to let in the more positive things. And through my move and the closing of the home I lived in for nearly 30 years, I've had to pay attention to what I needed to be emptied of. And I urge you to pay attention to your own changes and need for changes and be willing to let go, to become empty, to believe and let go of your preconceived images and ideas. And who knows what mystery and magic may appear. But I can tell you this, I'll be here for you. I'll be here through all your transformations, all your changes. You are beloved. May it be so.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we're together again.
It is time to go now. But when we are able to spend time together thinking and being sustained by chats and by music and by sharing, we feel those deep connections that make us Unitarian Universalist, and most especially, we are South Church UUs, with a distinct flavor and character and person and purpose. And let me name them: goodness, compassion, joy, curiosity, connection, and interconnectedness. We have been so patient and faithful. We have gathered from far and wide by ourselves, with family, with friends. We've gathered on Sunday, or we've caught services on Tuesday. We have mourned and laughed and yearned for the time when we can be in the sanctuary together again. My dear ones, it is almost here. And in the meantime, be safe. Take care of your loved ones. Take care of each other. And take care of Mother Earth. Go in love, peace, bring love, peace, and joy with you wherever you go. Blessed be.